was looking for something on Dr. King in particular. Doesn't jump out. Obviously, it mentions it as Malcolm X, but Malcolm X pops up quite a few times. And the Black Panthers.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter,
here we go.
and
Communist infiltration of
Instagram.
Southern Christian Leadership Conference. J. Edgar Hoover's official confidential file on Martin Luther King. I don't know. It's not active. Can't even open it. It only mentions it very briefly. Scrolling through. So FBI file on Martin Luther King. A recap. Microfilm. Printed guide. 25 reels. Part 1 of the Martin Luther King Jr. FBI file. Part 2 of the King Levinson file. The FBI's declassified documents that are contained in 2 parts of the Martin Luther King Jr. FBI file. Allow the reader to follow the development of King's own career and civil rights activities in a way never before possible. Taken as a whole, this publication makes available to researchers in history, political science, sociology, and law a crucially important documentary record on one of the central leaders and one of the central issues of our time. There are also verbatim transcripts of conversations between King and one of his most trusted confidants, Stanley Levinson. See also Internet Archive. There's a complete FBI file on Martin Luther King Jr. It's active. I might as well open the tab. Stanley Levinson Federal Bureau investigation at FBI consists of security investigations of Stanley Levinson from the 1950s through the early 1970s. Levinson is a key advisor to Martin Luther King Jr. The complete it's opened up. There is no preview available for this item. The item does not appear to have any files that can be experienced on archive.org. Please download files in Right. Got a little bit behind on my podcast. Had to reschedule as well. Needing the extra 10 minutes as I had a few technical problems. Just looking back at the book just before I finish, it goes into how the FBI all out attempted to destroy Dr. King with the communist dupe and the smear of him being an adulterer within the black struggles of the civil rights movement at the time, and how Hoover's bureau was unable to stand with the Ku Klux Klan and any non-violent resistant groups like the likes of the American Flag Committee and their preposterous claims that all civil rights law could be traced to a modest Communist Party civil rights initiative. So in terms of extremism and the bureaucracy of that over the influence and nature of that type of resistance at the time, it goes on and on. It mentions more on how a particular individual had witnessed a photograph snapped of Martin Luther King attending a communist training school, and the photo depicted the four horsemen of racial agitation. It carries on to make further points related to all the issues at the time and how John Kennedy responded to dismissing the Red Menace at a news conference, although Robert Kennedy responded to the Mulroney and Magnuson letters with a similar disclaimer. The source of available evidence at the time in connection with the civil rights groups and communists were more rumored, hearsay, reports and files within those investigations were considerable within what they were considering at the time and what they actually approved of and disapproved of, and the amount of electronic surveillance force that they used during their response. It goes on to make more points. It talks about Jim Crow America from the 1940s, more executive FBI decisions jeopardizing informants and interfering with the investigations itself. There were lots of objections, references to sensitive sources. It goes on and on and on. There were highly explosive documents that about Dr. King entitled "Communism and the Negro Movement." The documents themselves ended up in the White House with the likes of the Attorney General and the Secretaries of State and Defense, the CIA Director, and the military intelligence agencies. There was an 11-page document regarded as a personal attack on Martin Luther King at the time, which ended up in the Justice Department and was an integral part of Bureau analysis and that of its recipients. and leaks. It fueled the matter even more and the political issues of forthcoming presidential campaign. Decisions on duty had to be made. Who to blame? Well, in terms of the betrayal of confidence and all the off-the-record remarks that were made, Hoover himself reverted for a time to more cautious policy, so that he wouldn't get into so much trouble, I suppose, within rights and bills, including Congress. Obviously, the newspapers at the time who desired to quote remarks, they caused controversy and became very controversial period at the time, with all the concerns around Dr. King. So almost at the end of the chapter now, and although the civil rights movement campaign and Martin Luther King himself was discredited within the movement, the cause continued and its testimony is clear. Justice and equality is the value and principle. Basically, communist influence within the movement, well, whether it did exist or it didn't exist, it's more of a perspective that propagandized on perceptions to magnify and dramatize the racial incident itself that was taking place within all the racial tensions. So it goes on and on. Hoover says Reds exploit Negroes. This was reported testimony with the likes of New York Times running the story with the likes of that caption. This regard is a very imposing remark, to say the least. It's very negative in its influence in terms of like the circumstances at the time. So I think the likes of the Ruskies, red communists that they are, they're more of a phantom within the likes of what is like a mockery, really, and the mockery easily became very brutal in terms of the inequality directed at the movement and Dr. King himself. What was going on down south with the racism, seek to belittle the movement as well. It was making the FBI choose sides, and there's many segregationists involved in the likes of what is a very revolutionary for the likes of his at the time, revolutionary movement and campaign, despite the likes of all the smears and the strategies to intercept and infiltrate the likes of any issue of it, and that was considered an insurgency to the likes of the government, on how they were taking sides in the divisions served and the carriers of the FBI and that information. Hoover is quoted as saying this, quote, "If Hoover could be disembalmed, he'd probably say, quote, 'I'm taking the side of America,' end quote." End quote. Obviously, Martin Luther King did not see it that way at the time, and when he said the director had chosen to move his bureaucracy alongside the cause of the Southern racists, he was right. That's the end of the chapter there. Get into something else. And this is for anyone on or off Facebook. It's all online via SoundClick.com at Sincere Webcasts. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Sincere Webcast Services, and any other Sincere brand of Sincere Social Justice, and all the other Sincere assets. This is
follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram
to establish honouring the life and legacy of Dr. King, and to encourage all Americans plus the world of Facebook social media beyond to volunteer to improve their communities. This is hosted in wellness and education. I represent myself and other white people as a paler generation that is a descendant of African nationals' migrations around the globe. Americans celebrated the first official Martin Luther King Day, which is the only federal holiday commemorating an African American, on Monday, January 20th, 1986. Martin Luther King Day 2021 UK. It is observed on the third Monday of January each year. King's birthday is January 15th. Happy birthday, Martin Luther King. Dr. King holiday is similar to holidays set under the Uniform Monday Holiday Act. The earliest Monday for this holiday is January 15th and the latest is January 21st. I am the host, Elkanah. You can call me Frank. We will be ending this episode now. I'll have to put it all together and then mix it and upload it to Sincere Webcasts at SoundClick. I've reviewed the history and some of the policy included in the event with the chapter, which is a new chapter, the likes of my Racial Matters episode in a book review, book written by Kenneth O'Reilly. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please remember, do stay safe. Don't catch COVID. If you do have COVID, don't give it to anybody else. You must all take care. Peace and love. Love and light. Equality and justice for all. Stop racism. Black lives matter. In fact, all lives matter. And with that, that's that. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.